So if you all didn't know already, we're here to discuss A Tempest of Tea. This will be completely spoiler free. So we are just, we're going to talk about the writing process and we're going to do like a little bit of a lightning round. Hafsa, this is a preview for you. Between all the characters of We Hunt the Flame and A Tempest of Tea. So
Oh,
yeah, very, very exciting. Thank you for joining us.
thank you for having me. I will be your guinea pig.
We appreciate it. Before we start on the questions, I want to remind everyone A Tempest of Tea is out in, I think, 12 days now, February 20th. If you
Yes.
haven't pre-ordered yet, you still have time. There are links in our bios. Go pre-order and then save those receipts to submit to the pre-order campaign that Hafsa and her publisher are running. Okay, let's get the first question. What are some parts of the story that surprised you while writing? Did you feel like you were falling back in love with writing during Tempest?
Ooh, I don't know actually. I feel like it was a struggle for much of the process because there was a lot happening in my life, my personal life too. And so I was like struggling to meet deadlines. And it was my first time writing on proposal, which if you don't know, proposal is when you pitch a publisher 50 pages of your work and like where you think it's going to be going, like the outline, character profiles, and all of that. And they review it and they're like, okay, yeah, we are interested. We're going to buy it. So I sent them that proposal, and that kind of feels like an outline to me where I struggle with outlines. Like I have a hard time once I write them, I always have a hard time following through, or like I feel the stress to continue, like stick to that outline, even though it's my own one and I can like go off track if I wanted. Um, so I don't know if that was falling back in love with writing though. So maybe the next book.
Oh, okay. Um, because did you write this at the same time you were writing We Free the Stars, or was this after?
It was after.
Okay, so this
Yeah.
was everything else was happening in your life.
Yeah. I think I started in around the time that We Free the Stars released. So it was around then. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like I was talking about this with we did like a little spoiler-free review the other day, me and Besma, we recorded a video and we were talking about how like the writing is so different from We Hunt the Flame, and it's like We Hunt the Flame and We Free the Stars is like super like elegant and poetic, and like the prose just like kind of flows a lot more like almost flowery, and it like really matches the vibes of I watched your story earlier, and I've been pronouncing it Arawia or or
Arabia. I mean, it's
wrong
either way. It
all
there's
the time. So now I like take a pause before I say it. But yeah, so it really matches the vibes of Arawia, and Tempest is a lot more like gritty, and like it is just it again matches the vibes of the scene and the setting and like kind of the whole Peaky Blinders aspect of the story that it's being comped to. Um so it just feels like it's just like a so much more adventurous, and like it leaps off the pages. Did you like, was there a different part of your process that you had to change to reach that, or was that really just like a different, like a pivot into different characters, and that came naturally?
It was definitely a conscious decision to write like that way because I wanted to fit. I feel like there's so many aspects that go into world building, and that includes the writing style. So for Arawiya being that lush setting and it's like, Arabian poetry and all of that, I wanted the writing to reflect that. And with Tempest being on these cutthroat streets and everything's just sharper and grittier. And then Arthi is also this is not her first language, and she doesn't fully care to learn the language to its fullest. And so the writing kind of fit that to fit her. So you'll see like throughout the different points of view, the language will sometimes get more eloquent if it's in Jin's point of view, but it's still the same writing style throughout where I wanted to reflect the setting more. And that's what I thought I was fully doing. Like I was like, this writing style is completely different to my We Hunt the Flame duology. And my editor was like, no, it's the same. It feels the same. It's still you. It's still distinctly you.
I mean, I think I said this also during the review that it is still you, but I like that we were able to see a different side of your writing. I personally, as a reader, I never want authors' books to feel too repetitive. And I
Yeah.
think that's a really good point. I didn't even notice switching from from Arthur's perspective
Oh,
that that's a really cool thing you're able to do. And now I want to go back and see if I can pick those things out myself.
I definitely sensed between like the change between Arthas and Flicks. I think like something I get really frustrated by is like when you can't tell the difference between chapter perspectives, and in Tempest it's very very clear that like when you switch, I don't even have to see, like I don't have to look at the chapter title or number to see like whose voice I'm reading. Like by the end of it I was like, yeah, I know who I'm reading. um so but I feel like the whole Jin thing is like a little Easter egg. I'm like I'll for a reread.
I mean, Jin has been on the streets quite a while, so it's not going to be completely different, but there are like times when I'm like, okay, he has a bigger vocabulary than Arthi does. So it's his way of speaking is going to reflect that. And I'm glad you noticed the difference between like Arthi to check on the chapter heading before you continue if you like come back to a book, because I always worry about that, and that's like something I keep in mind when I'm writing. I want the each voice to be distinct.
Yeah, it was very distinct. I was even reading my first round on my e-reader because it was before I had my physical arc.
Mm.
And they don't even display the chapter titles if you're just kind of going through the pages unless you click on it. And it was very clear like whose point of view I was in if I'd left it and came back to it.
Yay.
It came across very well. That kind of leads us into our next question, which is actually submitted from somebody from the book club. They want to know, how do you decide on names for your characters and places, and do those names ever change during the process of the book?
Ooh, I don't think I've ever changed a name. I put a lot of thought process behind each naming like process, a naming ceremony. Um, for Arthi, I definitely wanted her to be King Arthur-esque, and then Arthi is a name, I think
Oh,
it's Sanskrit, so it fits. What is it?
I didn't make the connection between that and King Arthur.
I literally made it, I think, a second before you said the sentence. I was like, oh, that makes sense.
I'm
Anyway,
disappointed.
I'm so sorry. I've literally been sitting on this book since August of last year and put it together.
we learn something new every day.
You do.
Anyway, so yeah, that's why Arthi is named Arthi. And then for Jin, I actually had him as a specific ethnicity. And then once I played around with the setting a little bit more, Jin became his name, specifically Jin. And then Flick, I like that I could shorten Felicity to Flick. Like I wanted a name that was very hoity-toity, pretty much. And I like that, you know, you could shorten it to what she wanted, like the name that she gave to herself. With We Hunt the Flame, there was a lot more thought put into each name because I wanted each of them to mean different things. Like Zafira was the first name that I found, and I liked that it meant victorious. And I thought, you know, I have this assassin character who is her opposite, and it'd be cool if his name meant the same thing. And so Nasir wasn't the name that I picked for him, but I went looking through male names to find one that meant victorious, and that's how I found Nasir. Um, and then Altair, of course, was named after the Assassin's Creed character because I really like the games. And I wanted to have a little nod to it. And yeah, those are the ones I remember. We Hunt the Flame was a lifetime ago.
For this time around with Lath, because he's also an out of name, did that one have any meaning, or is it just like a name you liked?
Yes, that had meaning. There was actually two names that I had like narrowed it down to, and this was way back when I was on Twitter. And I put up a poll asking people, I don't know if either of you saw it, but I put up a poll asking people to vote for their favorite one. I didn't say anything like what this book is about or any of that. I was like, which name would you guys prefer? And then the two names got a tie, so I ended up just going with Lath anyway. But yeah, I definitely decided to name him that. It it's I sometimes look at meaning, but also how the name sounds. Like
Mhm.
sometimes a name just sounds softer and that would fit a character more, whereas Lath has that like, I don't know, sharp, mysterious kind of vibe to it. So that was why I settled on it.
It really
I
is.
agree.
Lathan, I think, is one of my favorite like male out of names, like since I was a kid. So I was pleasantly surprised to have a character named Lathan in this book.
I once upon a time wrote fan fiction, which has been since scrubbed off the internet, so nobody can find it. But my one like the male main character that I had named was Lath, and I was like, when
Oh,
I saw it, I was like, this is
nice.
great. One. Okay. So our next question is, are there any specific reactions that you from readers that you're looking forward to?
Ooh, I love getting reactions to the ending.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's totally warranted. Anyway,
I don't think there's anything else we can say.
anyway,
All
so
right.
I guess like this question also. Oh, sorry, did I freeze?
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Okay. The kind of like the other side to this question is like what maybe themes or conclusion is not the right word to use because obviously this is just one book out of the duology, but like what do you want readers to walk away with and or like what are the big themes of from Tempest that people can expect?
Actually, one more answer to your previous question. I always love when I have specific quotes and lines or scenes that I really love. And I always, when I finish the book, I'm excited to see what people will think or which lines that they'll um latch onto and post about. So that's always fun, like which quotes that people end up liking and stuff. But the themes, hmm, this is like ninth grade all over again.
Discussion question.
Can you also talk about the symbols and the allegory? I'm just kidding.
That's everyone else's job, not my job. I just write the book. But yeah, Tempest of Tea has deals a lot with colonialism and the effects of that, which I didn't fully know how it had affected me, like generations later, until I was researching and writing the story. And the more I researched, the angrier I became, and the angrier Arthi became in the story. So I feel like there's just so much to it that we cannot convey uh, properly. And for me, when I was growing up, I was not really one to research and read the news and like, read actual nonfiction stuff. I would prefer to read fiction. And I like the idea of being able to write completely complete fantasy worlds where it is a secondary world, secondary fantasy, so it does connect to real life events, and I can somehow convey something about that.
Yeah, I think just because I'm also South Asian and like reading about this, there's just so much that I have never really like I think it's because my parents are from Bangladesh and I grew up with those stories and like how colonialism really affected Bangladesh. And it wasn't really until, and like South Asia in general, it wasn't until like I got to college and like I actively was doing research for this for papers and I was reading versus listening to the stories that my family members were telling me about their own experiences with the British or like fighting in the war and everything. And it's just it's insane. Like the way I don't know. I'm sure like everybody at this point like feels the same way, but the way they have gotten away with it, everything, and the way that these horror stories just feel so unreal. Like Artie's rage is also all my rage. Like it's it is so palpable.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we grow up hearing stories too that aren't always painting them as the bad guy. Kind of like they came and they civilized our country. They made it better. They opened up all these schools to give us education. And it seems like, oh, they are the good guys, but it's just so ingrained that our families just didn't realize it. But I think worse than that was was when I was researching, it was hard to find real accounts because so much has been erased and rewritten by the colonizers.
Yeah. I think I had the same reaction when I first read the beginning of Tempest, and I don't have the same connection to colonialism I think you two do. I mean, I'm sure it does exist with Arab and Middle Eastern countries. I don't think I've been exposed to it enough. Um, but like you said, how do they get away with it? And I feel like we're experiencing that now. And it's just like almost like gaslighting us into like, are we the only ones upset? Are we the only ones who care? But like all these people care, but it's like the five people in power that have control. And so yeah, like you said, a lot of Arthur's rage I think is similar to what a lot of people are feeling now. So I think that's gonna resonate with a lot of people once this book is out.
Yeah.
I agree. I think
Yeah, next question. So we've noticed between We Hunt the Flame and Tempest of Tea, obviously there's big differences between our main female characters, Zafira and Arthi.
Mhm.
Where did you draw your inspiration from each character? Are there like parts of yourself there in each of them that make them so distinctive? How did that go?
For my main characters, I feel like I always draw from my own experiences and different parts of me. I did feel when I was writing that Arthi was just entirely made up, that I had already written all of myself into We Hunt the Flame and We Free the Stars, and now I was free of that. But as I was writing and sharing it with my close readers, they were saying that, yeah, she is exactly you. So Arthi definitely, I can relate to her in a lot of ways. But the other characters, I feel like the same thing happened with We Hunt the Flame, where I will write them, introduce them onto the page, and then they will sometimes be a foil to another character, whether that's personality wise or their motivations. And then as they progress through the story and I flesh out their motivations and where they came from and their backstories, I can always relate to them in some way. But stuff like, the fire that Jin went through, that's entirely fake. It has no personal connection. But there's other aspects with like Flick and her struggle to gain control of her own identity, like to separate herself from her mother. That was something I could relate to. And then with like Nasir and all of his trauma, those are things I could relate to. So it's a picking and choosing and sometimes adding more to embellish it because it's entirely fiction.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I imagine it gets like a little personal or like vulnerable to write these characters, but I think adding a bit of realness makes them more real to us, even though a lot of their stories are, of course, completely fictional and not really plausible in the real world. It makes them a little bit more real to the readers.
Yeah. And I think when you can relate to a struggle, you can add that nuance that someone who doesn't understand that struggle will be able to do. So that's always fun, I guess. Therapy sessions.
not until you post that you're crying over possible endings of the next book.
Yeah, that's mostly my husband's fault. My editor asked me for an outline because she was like, I know you're not writing Tempest 2, so please send me an outline so I know like some idea of what to expect. And so I was sitting there with him a few weekends ago and I was like writing it from top to bottom. And he was like, what if this happened at the end? And I was just like, no, I don't do stuff like that. That's not me.
Listen,
Like,
I don't know
now's the
where this is
time.
going, but my crew better stay intact, okay? No funerals, right?
It's like it's time. I've got to go.
Anyway, we'll meet you back here 2 to 3 years from now, either really angry or really.
Listen, Jin?
Honestly, I'm with Busma here.
Yeah,
Jin, get behind me.
I'll protect you.
Get behind me too. We're just protecting them all from my husband at this point.
Okay, so this is our last question before like lightning round. A lot of people have asked if we would see We Hunt the Flame cameos. Can you confirm if we get any and if people need to read the duology before reading Tempest?
You don't have to read the duology before reading Tempest. There are Easter eggs that I mostly wrote in like as little like hugs to people who are fans of the series. But you don't have to read it to enjoy Tempest. There are mentions of some of the characters from some of the Zumra from We Hunt the Flame, but no like cameos, like no one appears on the page. Like I said, I wanted people who haven't read We Hunt the Flame to be able to enjoy Tempest, so I didn't want any of that happening. Maybe in the sequel.
Okay.
Maybe. Will we finally get that like fluffy Altair story with a crossover? Just putting it out there.
There's a lot happening in Tempest that has to happen, that has to continue on in the sequel, so I wouldn't call it
Okay,
fluffy. Yeah,
maybe later.
maybe later.
My
Okay. Go ahead, sorry.
Jose, a couple excuse me, a couple of my friends, obviously, like I've been talking nonstop about Tempest to everybody, and a couple of my friends haven't yet been able to read We Hunt the Flame, and they're like, "Can you read?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, for sure." But another one of my friends, this is all in one group chat, is like, "Why would you read Tempest without reading We Hunt the Flame?" I was like, "Okay, I mean, you have a point, but you don't have to."
Yeah.
Definitely read them both. But yeah, I will be citing this specific minute from this recording to friends.
I mean, they are also very different in size. So, I mean, if you prefer short books, then this is
Oh
Tempest and this
yeah.
is Wings of the Flame. So I can see it appealing to more people just because of that. And then, of course, there's a heist and vampires and all that. But,
I think
you
the
can
Easter
read it
eggs
the other
even
way. Start with Tempest and then read Beyond the Flame if you wanted.
Exactly.
I don't even think the Easter eggs in Tempest spoil anything in We Hunt the Flame, so I think it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, you ready for this lightning round? This might be a little difficult, and then I think after this we'll try to get to the audience Q&A. But so basically, we were thinking earlier when we were planning out this live, we were like, what if we like pit the original group squad Zumra against? I don't think Arthy's crew has a name yet, so we've just been calling it Arthy's crew because of course she's in charge. So we're gonna give you like context and then two characters, and you have to pick. So this
Okay.
first one, I'm actually gonna alter how we wrote this down, Azanta, a little bit. We said who would win in a brooding stare down, but I'm gonna remove stare down and just make it just like a brooding contest because hanging out on rooftops, slinking in the shadows, any type of brooding between Nasir and Leith.
Nasir, definitely.
The brooding king.
my emo little boy.
Especially because he has a point of view. So even if he doesn't look like he's brooding, you will read his point of view and you're like, yeah, he's
He's
always
always brooding.
We love him for it.
brooding.
Okay, who makes a better drink, Altair's kahwa or Jin's tea?
Ooh. Ooh, that's a hard one. Ooh, so they're both foodies.
Mm.
Uh, I don't know. I feel like they would appreciate one another's drinks. Um,
Somebody
Altair.
has to win up
Altair.
So
here.
Okay,
you're
yeah.
all right, Zumra in the lead here.
I actually have a quick side question. Did you imagine a certain type of ahwa, like type of ahwa for Altair's coffee, like Yemeni, like Syrian, any type of, or is it just general Arabi ahwa?
It was just in general. I don't think I even set out to do that. Oh, there's a
Hmm.
scene where I put them, I don't know if it's still in the book, but I put the two of them in a tavern. Is that in the book?
In the first one, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I put them in a tavern and I was like, I don't want them drinking. So I'm just gonna have Altair obsessed with coffee. So he just drinks that everywhere he goes.
And now there's a US chain called Qahwa House. I don't know if you know this. It's Yemeni coffee. It's literally just called Qahwa House. So
I
if
saw
Altair
that.
was real, that's where he'd be hanging out. Okay, next round. Who would
Oh
win
no.
in a snark off between Kifa and Mateo?
Ooh. Oh no. So Mateo is very he I feel like Mateo would let Kifa win because he's a gentleman, but Kifa is also very brutal, so This is a hard one, and I don't want another Zumra point. Um, why couldn't it have been Arthi and Kifa? Why did it have to be Mateo?
Yeah. Arth oh wait, but who would win between Arthi and Kifa?
Arthi.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh.
Yeah. Kifa would relent. Arthi is just like one track mind. Um, hmm. I guess Kifa. And that's only because
Another win
Mateo
for
would let her
the
win.
You're probably right. He's like, I'm a vampire. I got all the time in the world. We'll pick this up later.
Yeah.
Okay, so who would be a better cat lady? Flick or Yasmin?
Ooh, definitely Flick.
one
Because
point for
yes,
RT.
Yasmin is very much like a cat. So if that cat got catty, she would probably hiss back.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, Flick is just like, oh, you sweetie pie. She'll just give her life for that cat.
She should.
Yeah.
You see, I don't think the cat in Tempest has a name, so I've been calling it Opal, which is the name of your cat. Is Opal becoming like the cruise cat? Like, is she like, do they share parental responsibilities?
In the sequel,
In your whatever canon, if it's canon or not, in your imagination, do they share parental responsibilities of this group cat?
I actually don't know if it's in the arc or what,
Mm-hmm.
but in one of the very last revisions, um, during that last scene, the cat is like hiding under a table. Is that in the book? Okay, so Flick picks up the cat and she's like, "We need to name you." And then she goes through a list of names, and Opal is one of those names.
Oh
So
yes.
in the
Okay.
sequel, she will be naming her Opal. So we know that the cat's name is Opal, but the cat
Okay.
isn't know yet. Yeah. Um, but yeah, you'll have to see what happens with the cat.
Okay. That's a little scary.
Oh, well, that's kind of
Nothing will
scary.
ever
Um,
happen to the cat, but yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, something happening to the cat would be more devastating than Jin. It's a big statement for me to say.
Didn't get behind
Jin and Opal get behind me. Um,
No, the cat's fine, don't worry.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. In our last lightning round, who would secretly be a Twilight fan between Zafira and Arthi? Because vampires.
Oh, but neither of them would have the patience for that. They have other things to do besides fangirl over anything.
For one of them, it would be like a guilty pleasure, and which one would that be?
know what though? I think the answer to this question is actually I'll tell you. I don't sorry, Hafsah. You answer.
I don't think that's wrong, actually. I can see Yasmin or Jin being a fan of either one, and then Arthi or Zafira would hop on board. And that's more likely to be Arthi because she's like always with Jin versus Zafira isn't always with
Mhm.
Yasmin. So, Arthi.
The follow-up question, which is not on here, would they have a specific team, Edward or Jacob? Like at least for the guys, like also here and Jin, I gotta know what direction do they lean?
Vampires. I'm
Yeah, I was
sorry. I'm not a werewolf fan, so my characters can't be.
Okay.
RC would be like werewolves. That's so stupid. Like what the hell?
She would be. I can see that.
Mhm. Okay, I like that. I'm not even a big Twilight fan myself. I just thought this would be funny because there's vampire. I don't think you are Azante either.
I don't really
Okay.
care.
I'm
But
not
it
either.
works with
I read
vampires.
it eons ago, so
Yeah, yeah. That was my sister's age group, not mine. Okay, so I know Hafsa, we said half hour. So if you need to go, we can wrap it up here, but we do have just like a couple audience questions. So
okay, we
up to
can we can do
you.
it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so Dana asks, Hafsa, your book never fails to surprise when it comes to plot, twists, and what characters go through in their struggles. Her question is, how do you figure that out, and is it hard for you to plan these things out?
Oh, with We Hunt the Flame, all the twists that happen organically happened. I had no intention of any of them happening. Like there was a couple, well, there's a lot of twists that happen in both books, but in We Hunt the Flame, the big twists were entirely surprises to me too. And I think that's what made them so surprising in the story because I didn't see them coming. There were just some questions, like overarching questions that my editor had where she was just like, why there's just something missing here that will tie this all together. And I remember sitting on the floor with my sister, just like going nuts over it. And then I was just like, what if she was related to this one? And then it was just a joke when I said it because there were some other scenes that had happened between this character and that other character. So it changed the dynamic entirely and it just tied everything together so perfectly. With Tempest, I did know most of the twists beforehand. But I also counted on people um being focused on a particular twist, like that they like readers would see a particular one coming so that the other ones were kind of thrown under the rug and they wouldn't notice them till it happened. So it depends on the story. With We Hunt the Flame, I didn't see them coming. With Tempest, I definitely did plan them. Yes.
So funny that you didn't see the We Have the Flame ones coming. I just like I have no idea what it like authors, I feel like every single author writes their books so differently. So it's always like so interesting to hear what everyone's process is like.
Yeah, with We Hunt the Flame, there wasn't much of a process because I did not plan anything. I was just writing and seeing where the characters took me. So it involved a lot of editing, but eventually, like, I guess subconsciously, I kind of knew what I wanted to happen, but it was just a matter of tying everything together.
Right. Our next audience question is from Zainab from Chile. She said, "Is there any teaser vibe of Tempest?" So, any teasers you can give out to everyone
Oh,
here?
um, teasers. I can read a random paragraph.
Okay, I think that's I think more than we were expecting.
Okay. Okay. Do we have a page number?
Oh, somebody put a page number in the chat. 54 is the first one from Bry.
Okay.
Agree.
Let us see.
I'm excited. As if I haven't read the book already.
Um, okay, this is backstory, so I will give you a paragraph. Now panic was starting to build, squeezing his lungs and his eyesight. He didn't like guns because his father didn't like guns. He needed a knife. Where did the cooks leave the knives? Jin dug around, coming up empty. He tried to move faster. He thought very hard. He had kept all of his parents' secrets, right? Paragraph.
Love of my life.
Paragraph. That's actually a really good teaser.
Yeah, that is one too.
Good page selection.
Good job, Bry.
Thanks, Bree. I think it's Bree.
Is it Brie? I'm so sorry.
I'm not sure.
You think with an ethnic name I'd be better at pronouncing things, but I'm terrible at them. I'm so sorry, Brie.
Okay, the last one, and then we can call it an evening. So,
Okay.
do you have a favorite character or chapter?
Ooh, favorite character. I like all of them equally, but I'm also very partial to Arthi. Probably because she's the main character and she goes through the most in the story. Um, I can't say because she's the main character because I do like Nasir and We Hunt the Flame because he's the second main character. Let's see. Favorite chapter. I don't know that one.
I'm gonna grab my
Probably
cat
one of
who's
the
at the door really quick.
probably one of the ones towards the end.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's really where everything
everything happens.
everything happens. Yeah, I mean, I agree.
Somebody wanted to say hi.
Aw,
He was
hello.
meowing at the door until I let him in. This is Romeo.
I
He would appreciate a cameo in the next book if Opal needed
Oh,
some
would he?
friends.
There's only one cat per book, so if
Oh, we'll have to
we'd
wait
have
for
to
the
like
next
get rid of
one.
Opal if we wanted Romeo in there.
No, we'll keep Opal. Romeo can chill with me. It's fine.
Okay, I think
Okay.
that was everything. So,
Okay.
there is I think you said you would be making someone just asked really quick like about like icy candles and things like that. You said you would be making merch for Tempest, right?
Yes, I just haven't gotten to it yet, but I will be having merch for them at some point.
Right. Stay tuned to Icy Designs. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Hafsa. I am so excited. We are just around the corner from this book changing everybody's lives. So
12 days. Thank you all so much for joining us. I'm
Thank you. And if you
excited.
haven't already, our giveaway for our fan-made Tempest boxes, which are sitting right next to me, I have a whole stack, close on the 13th.
Beautiful.
So head to Azanta's and I pages to figure out how to enter and win a box of Tempest goodies.
yes. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thank
Hey,
you.
thank you.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Alaikum salam. Have a great night, everyone.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.